Guys and girls, just want to talk about a few things that I've seen in the news, in the media and social media about the upcoming referendum, and things that I think are lies, things that I think are just being said because it's fashionable, things that I wanted to put clear, and it's my 4 key points for why I think we need to vote leave in this referendum, and points that I really want to clarify. The first one, and this is really simple, it's not so much the issue of migration. I think both sides of the party have agreed that we have more people coming into the UK than we have leaving. This year's surplus, last year's 300,000 people. Both sides have agreed that that is too much. Apparently, if you want to vote leave, the key words on social media at the minute is they're saying it's because you're against migration and that it's because you're a fascist, you're a racist. That's the big word that's being used at the moment. And also recently on Twitter, I've noticed the word Nazi. If you are against the mass number of migration that's coming into the country, you are a Nazi. That's just not the case. I've got no problem with any of my friends that originate from overseas. I've got friends from New Zealand, I've got friends from Poland, I've got a mate in Greece, I've got family that are going to go and live overseas soon. I have actually got family overseas. I know people from all over. It's not in any way race related that I am worried or have concerns that there are more people coming in than leaving. Both sides have agreed that, to build 300,000 homes, just the people that came in last year, you would have to build 240 homes a day, 7 days a week between now and 2020. That's the reality of how many more people are coming in than leaving. That's not including how our nation is growing naturally through people being born. You get a bit of that filter off because sadly people die. But that's the migration issue. That's one of the things that's being discussed. Now, if we vote leave, what could come into place is a fair points-based system where everyone gets treated equally. We live in an equality-driven age. That means that anyone that's not born in the UK will be treated equally, regardless of where you are from. David Cameron is heading the Remain campaign, and he said during live debates that rather than tackle the issue with the EU, he would say that he would put focus on people from outside of the EU and look to stem numbers that way. So I'm a racist for wanting people to be treated equally, regardless of where they are from. That makes me racist. He is not a racist because his plan is to put greater prejudice on people based on where they are from. Now, I'm quite happy if you want to pause this for a minute, if you want to have a think about that. What the word racist means and the fact that the Remain campaign plans to put greater prejudice on people based on where they are from. That is the reality of Remaining. Take as long to think about that as you need. Am I the racist for wanting people to be treated equally? I don't think so. At no point has anyone said all foreign people need to go home. No. What we need to do is stem the flow that's coming in a little bit, so that everyone gets an equal shot at coming in. That is not racist. If you're one of those people that's saying it's racist, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're that, really think about what you are saying. Right, moving on, because we don't need to, the migration issue's been hammered enough. The next thing that I think needs disproving, David Cameron keeps saying we need to remain because we are a great influence within the EU. We're not, that's bollocks. What we are is one of 28 that takes an open vote on things. Now, I'll put this into points terms. When things come up in the EU and they're going to affect all countries, those things go to a vote. When they say we are an influence, that is because when we vote and we agree with the EU, and on things that the EU wants to happen, we vote yes, we agree, those things happen. In that respect, you could say that we are influencing, because we are agreeing with what they want to happen. When we say no, unless every other country agrees with us, that happens anyway. You need to have a majority vote. So the fact of our influence is we have opposed in the last 20 years 72 propositions by the EU that would affect our country. How many of those propositions or oppositions have been upheld in our favour? Have a guess. What do you reckon? 72 times what? Maybe 50? Maybe 40? Something around there? No. 0. None. We have opposed countless things with the EU. Well, not countless, 72 things, and all of them have gone through anyway. How is that influence? That's not influence. That's going with the mob. We either comply and go along, or we get outvoted and overruled. That's not influence. We don't have our fair share. We don't have our fair say. That is not having influence. Stop falling for it when they say we have influence. We don't. Thirdly, when did we become a nation that started being scared of threats? There have been countless things from our own PM and from his team who should be unbiased on the matter. Recently they threatened old people and their pensions, despite those being bound up by law and untouchable. There have been threats from Europe. Jean-Claude Juncker, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, has said very openly that if we leave the EU, we will be treated like a jilted ex. We will be treated badly. We won't be given any preference. What he's overlooking is the treaty that we've signed up to. Now, you can Google this yourself. Look up Article 50, Section 2. If you Google just that, Article 50, Section 2, will take you to, the first link comes up as the Lisbon Treaty website. Article 50 is about what happens if a group wants to leave, if a member state wants to leave the EU, and this is the Treaty of European Union. It's what we signed up for. Section 1 says that if a country's constitutional requirements mean that they have to leave, then they are quite within their right to. Section 2 sets out how that nation's relationship with the EU, with a view to the future, has to be agreed before the membership comes to an end. So we won't be closing the door then trying to reopen it. We will have an agreed relationship in place. Now bear in mind, for it to be agreed, terms on both sides have to be agreeable. We're not going to get screwed massively on what we decide to do because we just wouldn't agree it. The terms have to be agreed. Why are we listening to their threats? I'm not saying that this is a 100% fail-safe, but what I'm saying is that the threats that are being made towards us would go against the law. They would go against the treaty that we have signed up to. It's just crap that's being thrown at us to threaten us, to make us cower down. It's not fair. Right. The last point, and this is the massive clincher, the elephant in the room that no Remainer wants to talk about, and that is TTIP. You may have heard of it being talked about in the news. It's being given a bit of a blanket covering, though. They're trying to hide it away. The Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership. This is a deal that's been set up out of sight with the US to open trade up with the EU that is skint and America that's being really greedy. In this, the TTIP sets out the massive clincher for me. No government of any member state can hold a monopoly over any public service. What that means is that once this deal has gone through, and we as a member state of the EU would be powerless to resist it, our government could not hold a monopoly on health services. That means goodbye NHS. An American firm will come in, make an offer to buy the NHS, make an offer to provide the services, and our government will be powerless to resist. Now, we all know how Americans pay for their healthcare. Is that what we're signing up to? That's what we're going to happily take, is it? No. The NHS is our service that's funded through our taxes. Even if, a best case scenario, an American company comes in and buys the NHS, which is, if that's not the plan, why have they got this clause in there? Why is it not a trade partnership, or why is it a trade investment partnership? If that's not the plan, why is that there? And say, best case scenario, they come in and our taxes still pay for it. How good is it for our economy for all of that money to be paid to American companies to provide us with that service? The answer is it's not good for our economy, and that's a best case scenario. Worst case scenario, the NHS dies, we all end up paying healthcare. Have you seen the cost that is involved in running the NHS? It is an amazing thing that we have in this country that we shouldn't be just letting the EU walk all over. If you want to save the NHS, if you like getting your healthcare for free, if you like being able to visit your doctor without having to count your bloody contents of your wallet first, leave. Distance yourself from this shit. It's mad. Then you've got other things like people saying, we want to remain because of the environment. TTIP will damage the environment. And that might sound mad, but because Americans want to do trade with Europe, the part of the deal is that Europe lowers its standards on what it accepts for things like crops. Now, in America, their crop regulations are really low in comparison to how they are here in the UK and how they are in Europe. You have things like genetically modified crops, absolutely fine in America, they're not here. Harmful pesticides, fine in America, they're not here. All those regulations that we have that outlaw those here in the UK and within the EU, within Europe, they will have to be lowered. That is part of the deal that TTIP brings in. Excuse me. Why do we want to be part of that? I don't want to be part of that. We need to distance ourselves from that. So there you go. That's my 4 main points. As an added bonus, how many times in life do you say, there's too much bureaucracy, there's too much people in charge, everything's always weighed up too heavy? We are on the cusp of being the most powerful that we have ever been as the British people. We've got the chance to get rid of that whole top level of bureaucracy. The unelected presidents that we didn't vote for. All of the European commissioners that we didn't vote for. Neil Kinnock's one, he did fucking miserably here in two elections. But he is one of the lawmakers that we have to comply with. I didn't elect these people. You didn't elect these people. Let's leave, for God's sake. 5th biggest economy on earth. People want to do trade with us. Let's make the most of this opportunity. It won't happen again in our lifetimes. I love all of my friends that aren't from the UK, but we should be working together, not for each other. We shouldn't be meddling in each other's affairs like we are. The EU's doomed. Let's pull out of this. Let's take the power that we've got the opportunity to have now. Whatever you do, whatever you decide, if this hasn't changed your mind, at least vote. Make sure you have your say. Take care.